I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Bring the meeting to order. Page. Here. Walsh. Here. Childers.
Here.
Wolfersburg.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Right. Here. We have no proclamations or appointments tonight. Are there public comments? Now the Kiwanis is, we've got a spot for you for later in the agenda, but is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Okay. Consent agenda. We had the regular meeting minutes from last meeting, April 28th, the treasurer's report, investment recommendations, and approval of bills in the amount of $56,224.31. Is there any discussion about the consent agenda?
Questions? Okay,
I hear a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Walsh?
Yes.
Childers?
Yes.
Wolfersburg.
Yes.
Cummings.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, new business. First up is a presentation by the Kiwanis Club. You guys would like to come up here?
Okay,
You folks would.
first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I will keep it brief because I know you've got agendas, things to do, so it will be brief. If you've been watching what's been going on Facebook and around the community, you probably noticed that we're in the area. We are members of Kiwanis. Myself, I'm from Central Illinois and member of Champaign-Urbana Kiwanis. I actually lived in St. Joe for 20 years and both my kids graduated from high school here. So I'm very familiar with the community in this part of the world. Ag research took me into other places in the world after 1999. And so I've been around, but not back in this community, but very glad to be back here. Kiwanis is a service organization, which is international. We are over 100 years old. We do things that really focus on kids. I was a member of Lions Club in town here for about 10 years plus. I do not know exactly what year Lions Club ceased to exist as a club here in town, but there is at this point in time no comparable service club. There are many things going on. There are obviously lodge and various clubs that are in place, but Kiwanis is a service club that really focuses on dealing with the kids in particular. Not everyone is cut out to be an athlete. There are some that love it. It's great to be involved, but it may not be the the one all and everything for everybody in the whole world. But our programs really focus on leadership development and service mentality. That is really what we are all about. For those of you who have been around other high schools, Key Club is a major organization that is part of the Kiwanis world. That organization is over 100 years old, and we are an international organization. The diversity of the kids in Key Club is incredible. Their enthusiasm, what they gain out of this is great. We've been pounding the turf here for the last day and a half. I live in Urbana, and so I've been out here a time or two and kind of distributed information, but I'm familiar with this area to begin with. I have Angie Burford from Galva, Illinois, and she is the district secretary for Illinois Eastern Iowa District, and Mary Zeronis is the governor. So we've been out here just kind of getting around, making ourselves known. To form a club, we have to have 15 members. Have a good start, but we're not there. There is no absolute deadline for this, but we wanted to make ourselves known so that you would know what we look like, and at least here. I passed out information because I knew in advance I didn't want to be spending my time handing out information while we were talking. So that is the essence of what we're all about. We have a good, like I say, we have a good start. We're looking for people who are very community minded and service oriented. And that is the key for the whole process, to find that kind of people. We form adult clubs, and then from there, we have the clubs determine what their goals are as far as timing, how often to meet, and what they're going to really tackle as far as service type activities. But service is the key. And so that is the essence of what we're all about. I've left contact information for you, and I would be happy to talk. Already got contact with some of you, but obviously to get all of your contact information in advance would have been difficult. But I do not know all of you by any means. But look forward to hearing from you and learn more about what you think Kiwanis could do for this community, because that is the goal. We are not focusing on St. Joe area, really focusing on the area of eastern Champaign County, all the way from Sydney through Royal. So there are no geographic barriers on membership for our club. So people coming in from the rural areas of Urbana all the way into Vermilion County, I would say this would be a very reasonable target area for what we're all about. But it's a very good community. It's a very, I have very many fond memories of this community. So that is the message. I don't know if you want to take message questions, but I would be very happy to follow up with anyone by email or text as you would wish.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Okay. Next up is electrical aggregation presentation by Reg Ankrum.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Reg Ankrum. I'm president of SIMEC, Southern Illinois Municipal Electric Co-op. We started out, but we're in central and western and southern Illinois, so we decided to make our name an acronym. So it's SIMEC. And we've had the pleasure of serving in St. Joseph for probably 10 years. Our first contract was signed with Mayor BJ Hackler, God rest his soul. And so we've been with you ever since. In December of 2024, we recommended a hiatus because we couldn't find any pricing that was better, that would be to Ameren. And we've been looking ever since, and we brought to the mayor and to Joe Hackney, and thank you, Joe, a recommendation for an 18-month contract with Homefield. There are very few suppliers anymore. Most of them have dropped out of the aggregation business because of the risks involved. The volatility and risks in the business have been increasing measurably over the past several years. And the key reasons are there are three parts of a rate: capacity, and that's what the cost of generation, the invested capital in power plants and large transformation, which takes electrons from the power plant, over transmission. Transmission is the second part. It's a significant part because the network has been growing significantly, planning for the third key issue, which is demand for electricity. I was with CIPS and then Ameren for 22 years, retired. And at the time I retired, it was a normal year to have growth about a half a point, 0.5%. Last year, the growth was about 2%. So even though electric facilities are diminishing, we've closed a lot of coal plants, and even one plant at Clinton, one unit at Clinton has been closed. We haven't seen additional growth of so-called base load units to serve all the new loads. So much of the load is going to be coming from out of state, and that's how we serve customers. We recommended to the city, and the mayor took care of that about a week ago, a contract for 18 months. All utilities that supply electricity are now bidding twice. We're seeing a capacity and energy portion of the bill, which will be determined May 19th. And we've seen the capacity auction by which the electric generation costs were bid. I don't want to get into all the complications, but the fact is we've seen the 18-month contract actually beat Ameren's price that we project. We're projecting, if you look at this top bar, we're projecting Ameren at about 12.37 cents per kilowatt hour during the summertime. And you know that Ameren has a two-tiered rate. The summer rate's highest or higher of the two because most of the load is occurs during the summertime, basically because of space conditioning, air conditioning. It drops down to the second tier, and about the second column, about halfway over, you'll see we're projecting that at about 10.62 cents. So if we looked at an average customer, and this is an Ameren average, the typical residential customer uses 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. And for that customer, the bill with those rates for those two tiers would be $1,131.87. And if you look below, you'll see the home field rate for 12 months actually is a negative. It's more than Ameren by $57. But because of the ways suppliers are bidding now, we're able to leave out capacity charges until the second year. And so we have a fixed rate of 11.89 cents from July to May of 2027. And then beginning May 27 with December 27, we'll see a capacity charge. But you can see in the tan lines, the Ameren cost for 18 months is about $23.55, and home field's cost is $21.08, or it's a savings of about $247 over an 18-month period. So we recommended that. It is a volatile situation, energy anymore. We're having diminished generation and increasing demand. But the good news is, for example, Clinton's second unit is going to be reopening the second nuclear unit. But its capacity it's already committed to Meta, a huge data dealing firm. Demand, we're seeing AI, cloud computing, data centers, and industrial gains of about 2% in Illinois. And on the energy side, we're seeing fuel shifts away from coal, Illinois coal, toward natural gas, but clearly more wind and solar. But we're not seeing the growth in those generation fuels that we need to keep up with demand. So highly volatile. We've been privileged to serve you as your broker and consultant, your expert in these things over the past 10 or 12 years. And that's why we made this recommendation. As I say, about 15 months ago, we recommended that we do a hiatus with the program because we just couldn't find anything that would improve upon Ameren's rates. So anyway, the mayor was kind enough to ask me to come to speak to you about it, and I'd be happy, Mayor, to answer any questions you might have.
When do we find out what Ameren's rates are?
June 1st, they have to know because their new summer rate begins June 1st, probably about the last week in May. The auction is actually May 19th, and typically we find out about a week later. So,
and folks can opt out if they don't.
Very important point. People have a right not to participate in the program. An absolute right. There's no cost. There's no penalty. No reason needs to be stated. If they wish to opt out for any reason at any time over that 18-month period, they can do so. If they do opt out, they have 2 months under the rules to find a new utility if they want to do that. Or if they don't, then they stay with Ameren for a total of 12 months. So, thank you, Mayor.
And that opt-out process.
Yeah.
How do they opt out if they want to?
They will get notification within the next couple of weeks by letter from home field or the village, pointing out what the new rate is, and it clearly indicates what the ways to opt out are.
Okay.
The letter will include a postpaid card, check a box to opt out. There's a phone call you can make, or you can opt out online. So,
and I'm asking because we're on YouTube land and other folks are listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate that question. I will say to you that the most difficult question the staff will get is about why do I have to opt out? Why can't I just opt in? People can't opt in to anything they want. There are plenty of suppliers, all listed, those eligible to do business in Illinois, all listed on Plug-in Illinois, which is the Illinois Commerce Commission's website. So you can already opt in. But the way the law was set up to try to increase the volume that suppliers want, and they'll bid lower prices on, is to aggregate the pool of kilowatt hours used in the village. And with that greater pool usually provides lower costs.
Right. Anybody have any questions?
All the new solar panels, you're saying they're not generating enough to offset the.
No. Solar is not there. Wind is probably producing a little more energy than solar. Solar is good, but it's not there yet. And we're declining in we're seeing diminished supply and growing demand, and we know that means increased costs. That's where the volatility
You
is.
said that it'd be getting it from out of state. Now, I notice a lot of these wind farms are California based and one thing and another.
Mhm.
Are you referring to electricity might from them or are they still go on the line?
Well, we're part of the Mid-America Interpool Network.
Mhm.
There are 17 utilities interconnected, Kentucky utilities, Indiana,
Mhm.
Wisconsin. So that when we have demand in Illinois that our generation doesn't meet, we can call on those utilities to serve. I might say that the contract you have is a guarantee that you get power. There could be a brownout by the Illinois Power Agency, which supplies Ameren. Ameren actually sold all of its generation in 2013. So we get power from a number of sources, but when we do that, we have some additional costs for a couple of reasons. There's what's called line loss in the Ameren territory, which we're served by.
Mhm.
We pay about 7% additional because of line loss. Electrons lose their oomph when they travel. And so we don't like to buy that far, away from where we are. And the second reason is that when we buy from another utility, it's usually because we have a need for excess capacity. In other words, we have more demand than we can serve. And so utilities selling to us in those periods usually sell at a higher price. So this essentially gives us a cap for a price for 18 months. And when Ameren's costs could go up, or when other market costs could go up, we at least have a cap on the prices in St. Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Joe, thank you. Good to see you. Thanks. everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Please call if you have any questions. And I might say, Mayor, we'll be getting a news release and a handout for staff so they can answer questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thanks a lot.
Next up is the ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a tax increment financing district redevelopment agreement between the village of St. Joe and Wallace.
This is an agreement for what's called fill-in lot. There's a vacant lot that's remaining on Fourth Court. And this would incentivize the project up to a cap of $75,000. And the repayment schedule, it would be probably when we pull it up here real fast. I was made aware that there's a typo on it that says Trinity Acres, so if you choose to approve this, you would just need to make a motion approving the agreement with the typo corrected, and we'll get a polished version before it's signed and executed. But the repayment schedule for this agreement ends um 2041. So it's a pretty simple project, but there's around 200 and some odd thousand of eligible TIF reimbursable expenses. And so this is since it's a fill-in and not a development of many structures, it's capped. This would be the first fill-in lot, so to speak, that you incentivized. And so I've talked with the mayor about this briefly, that at some point establishing a formal, policy, a set of guidelines, and probably be coming through your consideration. But I recommend approval, and if you do, we'll get that typo corrected. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve it with the amendment as stated.
I'll second.
Shoulders?
Yes.
Yes.
Comments?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Motion passed. Next up, consideration and possible approval of letter of intent pledging capital contribution to the recycling center.
This is just that sort of we're processing things you put in the budget. And this is one of them. The document that was included is their pledge agreement, and this is you know, it's just basically stating what you said you would do in your budget document, which is $2,000 this year, $2,000 next year, and $2,000 the year after that. You can change those amounts and increase them in the future if you choose to, but just to formally get the check cut and sent, we just need a
Can
motion
you
to.
decrease it? Can you decrease it too? If you can increase it, can you decrease it?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is, I mean, it's just
After these third pledges, right?
I mean, this is your word. It's the way I take it. You're making a promise to them. So that's the commitment, basically. But if you also want to, just because you put something in your budget doesn't mean you have to spend the money. This is actually the mechanism of spending the money. So just need a motion to approve it if you all want to do that. If you don't, then I will advise the agency.
So I wasn't at the meeting when you all decided you were gonna do this, so can you just give me a little bit of background about what we're thinking? It's just all I wanna know.
So, I mean, I'm hoping that this place is up and running and that people from St. Joe will be able to use it. And in order for them to finish, they do still need pledges from communities that want to participate. In a lot of the other communities, Joe kind of maybe had the numbers for those were actually a bit more than what we did. I think we kind of went with half of what comparable communities were going with, which is okay.
They recommended based
They
on our
recommend.
population, it was like closer to 5,000 per year, I believe, so.
We were contributing an effort to help them, but
Okay.
not strapping ourselves. And
Okay.
then, if this doesn't, become a real thing where people are using it, then we should end it at that point.
Okay. I would agree with that.
But this
Yeah.
gives other people a place to
And it's,
recycle those chemicals and things that they did that presentation on I think,
Okay.
a year ago. with us.
So how often, just information, how often do you all have to or dispose of chemical type things that you use at your home?
not as often as I should.
Okay,
Stuff, I think stuff ends up being stored
Yes.
in my garage that
Yes.
probably
Okay.
should be. If there was a place to take it and drop it off, I would get rid of old paint.
I've got quite a bit of paint and chemicals.
okay,
I think also like offering this will hopefully encourage people to use this as opposed to maybe improperly disposing them into, say, a sewer treatment plant that could cause.
Rubber bridge.
Well, I think it's, so I think it's we're just kind of doing a good faith effort here to help them to possibly give another option to the community. And if we don't see that it's something that we can use, then we'll terminate that.
I think we need to get the information out to the people when it gets up and running and all of
Yeah.
that too, or it's, hopefully they will or whatever, I don't know what they're gonna do, but yeah. I just would want to make sure that that happens too, so they all know.
I was originally very much a no, so
Okay.
I understand your concern on it. I just think that you have to kind of invest a little bit in the hopes that it pays out for the community for, I would like to see a number of how many people from St. Joe
Right,
end up using it. if
we
that's
can
worth-
track it and
if it's
whatever.
worth
Mhm.
spending
Yep.
money on it.
Okay, that's fair, thank you.
Is there a motion approved?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Motion passed by vote. Next up is consideration and possible approval of a right-of-way permit for a campus communications group. Adwell.
This is not typically a board approval, this right of way permit necessarily. However, in the past, when I first started, the village was served essentially by one provider. And so when there was other fiber companies that came in, we were very excited. And so the sentiment at that time was, let's get it going. So we have some competition in our market. So we fast forward about 5 years, a little under 5 years. And we have multiple companies that are serving our market and new ones coming in. And during the construction process, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, roughly, 3 years ago as well, we had a lot of damage that was in our right of way. And so that generated a lot of complaints, as you would imagine. And this is not something that we are dealing with exclusively. I cited an article and WCIA from Tilton as an example, where they were having very similar issues to what we had. And so we are, this process that you see in your packet is tightening up our right-of-way permitting process substantially. And then also I like looping you all in on this so that you all can see what we're doing. And if you have questions or anything like that, you can ask them on the front end. But this will have some added cost because we did have Clark Dietz do a cursory review before. And I don't think it's necessarily the map that was the issue. It was more the practices that were in place last time that created the issue. So this permitting process will also, like a typical public project, require a pre-construction meeting. It will require check-ins. And it's also making very clear that if they cause some substantial havoc, that we could be stepping in to have them correct that before they proceed, and they'll be aware of that on the front end. Anyway, so this was just an effort to tighten this up and to hopefully cut down on some of the issues in the future. And this isn't necessarily an approval from you all, but a nod of the head that if you approve or like the permitting process and how it's beefed up, and that you're okay with this going forward, there'll be two other right-of-way permit applications coming potentially at the next meeting, the meeting afterwards.
Like Fidium, is Fidium one of them
Yep.
coming?
And Volo Communications, so
When you're giving them permit to work on the right of way, like agreements of their work, I believe it's part of that public works ordinances stuff, that they should return it to the condition that they found it.
yes.
So who with the village is enforcing that? That those things are being met?
Well, basically, the issue was that, well, me.
Okay.
But basically, the issue is they would go through the right of way and they would cleave a bunch of sewer connections as service connections as an example. And then they wouldn't attempt to be nimble and avoid causing that damage. They would cut them and then they would wait for there to be a backup and they come back and fix it. Is but the resident issue of my sewers backed up because my service line got cut as an example, and they're not happy about that. The issue wasn't necessarily them coming back to fix it, because they would come back and fix it. The issue is that they were being a little indiscriminate with how they were installing it in the first place, and they don't necessarily have to do that. They could be a little bit more nimble and avoid some of those headaches. Is the real problem that we're trying to avoid. But they were putting it back after everybody went through all of that.
I know that like with some of the like handfuls, it was a issue of whether or not they were being set correctly and back to where they were. Like I can tell you the one in front of my house is not, it's
Sure.
terrible. But I didn't know whose responsibility it was to follow up with them to make sure that those things get finished back up, so that when they leave, it should look like they were never there.
This is adding cost to us because we're going to have, as part of this, Clark Dietz coming out and being a little bit more involved in the process.
So Clark Dietz will be
Doing the
essentially
field part
affected.
of it. Yeah.
Yes, but there's always going to be a little bit of this when you're talking about, a lot of times, unfortunately, when this stuff is underground and the work is done and then they put the dirt back over it, the resident's going to find out the hard way, which is and it frustrates me because it was horrible. So anyway, this is a lot more involved and it could get some feedback from contractors or, oh my gosh, why we got to go through all this, and but I don't care personally. So this is a good thing for our residents, in my opinion, just to try to protect them on the front end.
You got a head nod from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
All thoughts.
Okay, so there'll be two more coming.
Okay.
All right. Any old business? Don't have any on the agenda. Village administrator updates. We have economic development report. It's been handed out.
And then I'll be out of the office next week, briefly at ICSC. I'll still be available by phone and email, of course. But the upcoming meeting will have, there's a planning and zoning public hearing, that's occurring next Thursday. And then you all will have a subsequent public hearing at your next meeting, and then we'll have some other stuff coming in the next meeting, but, other than that, that's all I have to add.
Mark, anything? Mike, anything you got? Anything from board members?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There, stay here for the rest of the night. You're opposed. Hey, that's what?